Welcome one and all to Last Stop Penn Station podcast featuring Kerry Silken and Ian Riccaboni. They dive deep into Kerry's wealth of stories, and no subject is off limits. From the world of wrestling to his ticket agency, growing up in New Jersey, drug-fueled underground days, hustling in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and endless days and nights in New York City, every story is worth telling.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining on this. It's got cat on my tongue there.
That was easy for you to say.
I did all that talking these last couple of days in the ROH bubble. I've ran out of words, Kerry.
Well, I don't think you were doing very much talking in the bubble.
Not in the bubble.
But physically at the matches.
Yeah.
Which I'm sad. I understand, and I don't think I would really have wanted to quarantine for 5 days, but maybe I would have, just to see everybody. Would I have even seen everybody?
Yeah. Caprice and I were one of the very few people, few individuals that got to see everybody. And officially, thank you for joining us on the special Monday edition of Last Stop Penn Station. It's Ian and Kerry, and we had to do Monday because of the bubble. I wanted to make sure my test result came back negative, the final test result. And Caprice and I were two of the few people that got to see everybody beyond some of the producers and things that help make the show look good. But other than that, it was a really real skeleton crew. But we missed you, Kerry. We missed Bobby Cruz too.
Yeah, I'm sure there were a lot. Well, thank you, and I'm sure there were a lot of other, some of the ROH wrestlers that were not booked. It was a pure title tournament with a few exceptions. And I'm sure there was a number of guys that were, like myself, sad not to be there, particularly after so many months of, we took for granted. There's so much we take for granted, but in the Ring of Honor pro wrestling, in our world, we took for granted those weekends and and I wouldn't go to every show, but going to Philly or going to New York, and I was starting to travel a little more right before this, over the last few months, 6 months before. I was in not the pandemic weekend, but I was in Vegas. I went to Nashville.
Yeah,
I'd always go to Baltimore and Philly, and enjoyed it. And so not being there was tough. But from what you've said, and I also spoke to Todd Sinclair, it sounded like when it got down to the wrestling that, as usual, there was some really good stuff.
Yeah, knockdown, drag-out matches. We had 15 matches in the Pure Tournament for 16 wrestlers, and I can't say that there was a first round match that wasn't better than a second round match, or vice versa. Every match is going to be must watch in the Pure Title Tournament. You have about 12 regular Ring of Honor stars and about 4 not so regular stars who were looking to make their impact in Ring of Honor. So that was very cool to see. And it was a great tournament. And that's going to start up the weekend of September 12th.
Well, I'll be looking forward to it. I do not have any spoilers because I don't know any spoilers, and I don't want to know. And I'm interested to see how the matches went. I'm interested to see how it looked, which I've heard it looked
new look,
really nice. And so congratulations to Ring of Honor for pulling this off under strict.
With all due respect to the Maryland State Athletic Commission, this was no joke. And I'm glad they didn't take it as a joke, because it actually made me feel more comforted, and knowing that I have to go home to my family. My in-laws came up to help with Zach and Nora and help Sarah with them. So I didn't want to give anybody that would be particularly at risk even an inkling that they might get COVID-19. So I'm glad, and I really got to hand it to the Ring of Honor staff. 110 out of 110 tested negative on the final test and on the pretest. So that shows that the bubbles work, and it shows that you can do it. It's tough, though. I mean, I spent, like you said, about 5 days away from anybody. So it was a tricky time. We're in some tricky times right now. Carrie, in your life, have you ever seen sports put on hold in terms of, in terms of a boycott or strike?
No, not in a complete form like this. Although before you got here, our producer AJ and myself, we watched a quick clip that I caught on the Channel 5 New York News, where they were given, it was just 5 minutes, but they were given a little history of sports protests, activism. And it went back to the days of the Roman Empire.
Wow.
And I can't quote the names, but there was incidents back then. And then they brought it up to modern day with naturally Jackie Robinson, breaking the color line. But probably the biggest sports activist of all, a man of color, was Muhammad Ali.
Right.
And in 1967, he was stripped of his title, given five, because he was protesting the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a Black Lives Matter thing, but he was protesting the war. They stripped him of his title. He got a lot of help from some of the great athletes like Bill Russell,
right,
Jim Brown,
who before this was the first athlete to lead a walkout.
Correct.
Yeah.
There was someone they didn't serve on the Boston Celtics, and he boycotted a game. And then they mentioned Curt Flood.
Right. Absolutely.
Curt Flood lost his whole career. This is about the free agency. Right. Which was basically the major league owners, you were enslaved to them. It's like in 1956, when good old Mickey Mantle hit 54 home runs, batted like over 350 and had 158 runs batted in, and was the MVP. At the end of 56, he wanted a $10,000 raise. He was in the $100,000 club with, Willie Mays and Ted Williams, and he, incredible statistics. And the Yankees just said no, and there was no way to fight it.
No recourse.
Right. So Curt Flood put his whole career on the line, and to change baseball around, because he felt that he was enslaved. And it went on to the guys in the 68 Olympics.
Right. The man from Australia did a very nice thing and not talked about. He gave them his gloves.
I didn't know that.
And is often mentioned very in high regard. He was a great ally to them.
And going back, Jesse Owens
in 36
in the 36 Olympics, which was in Germany, and the Nazi regime was basically in full force.
Right.
And they also showed, the strangest clip of all they showed was a woman in Boston competing in the Boston Marathon, who one of the officials came out and tried to drag her off.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
How embarrassing.
She wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so bringing it up to today, literally tonight when we're recording, with the NBA protested last night and today, it was nice to see the NHL follow suit.
Agreed.
And Major League Baseball, I don't think you saw that. You probably know that the Phillies canceled, but the Mets and the Marlins took the field, only to have a moment of silence and leave the field.
There you go.
And and it's ironic with we usually don't talk politics on this podcast, but with our wonderful leader speaking tonight.
Right.
Good for him that this is, being sarcastic, that this is, how's he going to spin this?
Yeah.
But the people have had enough.
Yeah. And it's good for them. Some of the changes in Ring of Honor were brought upon by enough people banding together. And there is power. I don't want to go on a pro-union rant here, but there's power in numbers and there's strength in numbers. And I saw a lot of great, it takes a lot of courage for an individual to do it. It takes even more courage for an entire organization team to do it, to get all on the same page. And yeah, it's incredible display of unity. And for, the Milwaukee Bucks to start the trend and to say this isn't acceptable, and to reach out to the state of Wisconsin's Attorney General and to reach out to the Lieutenant Governor and to ensure that things that they were interested in were addressed. And then now the Baltimore Ravens put out a statement saying they're not taking the field until a list of things are met, involving both national items and local items.
Good.
Absolutely. There's a quote, sports are are a product of a functioning society. And right now we're not functioning as well as we could be. No.
And we've had enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can't quote our great producer had a good quote, but he doesn't like to speak on here. But he had a good quote regarding it's not too, it's like it's sort of the opposite of too little, too late, or it's the right thing now, and it's about time.
Yeah.
How about that?
Love it. I love it. AJ with the wisdom coming through. Now it needs to be said. I think a lot of us are feeling it. I think there's a lot of people that have given us courage to say it openly now. I think privately we would support these things in the past, but now that there are folks that have come forward, it's a lot easier to help stand side by side with them.
Well, by the time this comes out Monday, this is going to be old. Some of this is going to be old news, but maybe you could answer a question, because I asked AJ and he wasn't exactly sure. And this man that was shot in the back 7 times in Kenosha, why was he shot?
I have no idea.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that should be the first question. And I'm going to be honest. They said there was a knife in the car. I've driven with a knife in the car. I've taken trips up and down the East Coast where I have a machete in the car in the event that I get on the side of the road and I need, it just the story of Tennessee, you're driving down to Tennessee. I'm willing to say that I may or may not have a machete in the car in the event that my car breaks down somewhere and I need to have something to defend myself. And so
I wonder what you would have done when that man pulled up and is over once again. And go back, on Last Stop Penn Station. If you're new to the podcast, there's plenty of entertainment.
Yes,
wrestling, rock and roll, and we stress characters, just interesting people. But then when I was broken down on Route 81 outside of Bristol, and when that turned out to be a nice man stopped in the pickup truck with the gun rack and the Confederate flag, and instead came up to us, instead of saying hello, as I did, he said, two people broke down here a week ago and they were both killed. So if you'd had your machete, I wonder what would happen then.
I would have taken I'm going to be honest. My fight or flight would have kicked in. I probably would have fled. I'm perfectly honest. I would have left.
Yeah, it was. Well, you couldn't have left.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. No, I sometimes I'm all bark and no bite. I would have tried to leave, I think. Ran into the woods.
I'll feel better traveling with you now, knowing that you're hacking a machete.
Allegedly. But that's a whole nother discussion for another day. Carrie, you've been posting some fun stuff on Instagram. You piqued my interest with the Great Allentown Fair.
Well, I'm sad. you know,
We missed Music Fest this year.
We've all had things taken away from us. Everybody, whether it's school, jobs, going to see a movie, so on and so forth, going to a pro sport, going to any sporting event, entertainment, fairs, and the Music Fest, as you said. And like right now, as I believe it would have been this coming weekend, would have been the rinky-dink Rudy Poo, but nevertheless charming.
Yes.
178th great. They got the banner up. It's like, how many years?
Yeah, right.
You know, like 100. Do you ever go there?
Every year. Yeah.
Right.
Year, yeah.
And so I would go. I like to go. First of all, sometimes they would have a good rock show.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw James Taylor a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Crosby, Stills and Nash a number of years ago.
My mother got friendly with Rod Stewart in, I believe, 1981. At the Great
really?
Allentown Fair. Yes. So that's a story.
That sounds like a whole podcast.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, maybe we'll save that. We'll keep that in the back pocket.
All right. Well, I'd like to know more about that. But yeah, they have good concerts. I don't think they had anything this year in particular that caught my attention. But I like to go just to go, and I'm a fan of. Well, if you're a fan of wrestling, you should be a fan of carnivals, because that's where, you know, pro wrestling came out of the days of the carnivals with the at shows, which was short for the athletic shows, where they would have these guys who were shooters. In other words, they knew how to fight, and they didn't knew how to wrestle or knew how to. So they would get on these stages and offer, you know, whatever. If this is 100 years ago, $20. You know, you only have to pay like a buck. $20 to any man who can beat me. And there'd always be these town tough guys, but these guys had these sugar holes. You want to explain what a sugar hole is?
Sugar hole, yeah. That Bob Roop made it famous on national television. But the sugar hole was it was usually a variation of a sleeper, no? And it was...
Right. They had these moves, no matter if the guy working for the carnival, the actual wrestler was, you know, 5'10" and 200 pounds. And now there's some guy 6'5", 300 pounds. They just had these moves. It might just be the way they grab their arm and, you know, where they make these guys tap out. You know, no one was getting that money,
right?
No matter what.
Yeah.
And boy, I would have liked to have seen.
Well, in some of the things I've read, they would go double or nothing if on the rare instance that somebody got one up on them, and it's like a pool shark would do some of the same thing.
Well, and I had a friend of mine, and he's been mentioned in the podcast. My friend Jeff Smith, who was beautiful Jeff Smith, who I was friends with in the 70s, and he was he was the one that went to Joe Savage with me. And he had some experience. Now, this is the early 70s. He had like a year or two experience traveling with the carnival.
Oh.
So this is like 72, 73. And they had these games, you know, when you go to the carnival now, they have these games that are basically impossible to win.
Right.
You know, you're throwing them down.
Right. Trying to get it on the bottle.
Right.
The ring on the bottle. Yeah.
or I don't know if I told this story on the podcast, but I'll tell it again. Or maybe I didn't tell it at all. Uncle Gunny.
No, I don't remember a fair story.
Uncle Gunny had a stand in Coney Island. It might have been his friend. But, you know, Gunny says, yeah, you know, told my father, Philly, remember my stand in Coney Island? He had the classic stand, and they still have it today. at all these carnivals with the 3 milk bottles.
Okay.
And all you got to do is take a softball and knock the 3 milk bottles over.
Seems so easy.
It seems so easy.
Yeah.
Well, according to Gunny, this is in like the 40s or the late 40s before he hit the road to Texas. But he said there was a very big storm came into Coney Island, practically hurricane style, like what's going on now, like remnants of a hurricane. And there were like 70-mile-an-hour winds.
Wow.
And roofs were, rides got knocked down, roofs got blown off. When they went back after the storm, the only thing standing were those 3 milk bottles.
Oh, God.
But yeah, so the modern day is, I'll get back to Jeff. We're bouncing around here, but we're on the same track. Jeff told me when he used to work the carnival, and these were carnivals that traveled in the South, out in the Midwest, and they would have the carnival lingo for these completely rigged games were hanky panks.
Oh, really? That's new. I never knew that.
And so I'm like, well, what did they do? Well, he says, well, one of the guys had this thing called a razzle board. And I'm like, well, what's that? Well, it basically was a game where you're picking, it was a game of numbers and you're trying to get to the next level. And there were no regulations. So like they let you win the first level for $1 for something that cost 10 cents.
Right.
And the second level was $5, and it looked like there were some halfway decent items.
Yeah.
Maybe a cheese basket. But whatever it was, they were probably worth $1 and they would let you maybe win that. But on the top were television,
Wow.
televisions and radios and an air conditioner.
Yeah,
right?
big stuff.
And I said, well, and then you'd have to pay for the next level, sir, it's $25, And so I remember saying to Jeff, well, they must have let someone win sometime. I mean, he goes, nope. He said they used to drive guys home to get more money.
Wow.
This is before ATMs.
Wow.
They certainly weren't taking checks.
Oh, my
So,
God.
yeah. So
The razzle board.
The razzle board. And, we're giving a good carnival history here. That's one of my favorite songs by the great Levon Helm and the band is the W.S. Walcott Medicine Show, which is about, these carnivals that, he grew up in Helena, Arkansas. And Jeff told me that this existed even back in the 70s. They had the girly shows.
Oh.
And AJ and I have been watching some Levon Helm stuff. And I recommend anybody who's not familiar with, it's The Band. That's the name of the group, The Band. You all know the song, The Weight.
Go
ahead.
Take
Ian.
a load for free.
Take a load off, band. And you put the load.
Put the load right on me.
All right. Very good. So in W.S. Walcott Medicine Show, they're talking about, Levon on this documentary was saying, yeah. And then late at night, it was around midnight, and it would get a little, because before that, it was a little tame. But after midnight, the girls got a little hotter and it got a little saltier. And, but this is the great tradition of the carnival. Mm-hmm. So now today in 2020 version, or we'll talk 2019 version, they still have the games of no chance.
Right.
Not razzleboard style, but anything you win is worth
a tenth of at most.
And I know you've seen this guy, Uncle Nick, the candy
Oh yeah,
Right?
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
wheel with
yeah.
candy,
Oh
Uncle-
yeah, you get the box of
Uncle
candy.
Nick.
Yeah,
Right. And these other games have no chance. But the thing that would really interest me was the freak shows. What would be the remainder of them? And up until about 10 years ago, they had a decent variety. Now, there's a guy that our good friend Gary Juster used to deal with.
Really?
He's no longer with us. Ward Hall. Ward Hall was the king of these kind of shows, going back to probably the 40s. And his partner was Chris Christ. And the third guy, and I'll post a picture, and you've probably seen this guy. How many years you been going to the Allentown Fair?
That I can remember since 1990.
Do you remember seeing a little midget by the where they would have the so-called freak show, which wasn't
Sure.
he blew fire?
Yeah, and he'd kind of he'd do a little bit of the carnival barking to get you to come into the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Ward Hall would be in front. It was it's opening night of the fair. Boys and girls have price. And then the little
guy.
the little guy that blew the fire, he went under the name of Cuba.
I never knew his name. Yeah.
But as the years have gone on, and then they would have like the little horse.
Right.
And the rat from the Amazon and all these things. And they had one of my favorites was the world's smallest woman.
Right.
Now they must have like a dozen smallest.
It's like when somebody says, "Oh, this is the only one. You're getting the only one I'm selling you," and you turn around and there's another one.
Well, so these are the things I really would like to go check out. And last year, I brought my godkids, Jonathan and Matthew,
Who are great.
Hogboy and Sour Lemon.
Who are great piano players.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Unbelievable. So I brought them, and lo and behold, we're walking around. Oh, yeah, and they would always have they call it the bozo bounce, but it was an old representation of the geek.
Okay.
You know what the original geek did, right?
No.
Yeah, they're the original geek, going back to the 20s and 30s, would bite the head off a live chicken.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Sika style.
Yes. But now, the guy that would sit above the water.
Yeah, the dunk tank.
Right.
Yeah.
And he would insult you.
Yeah.
You throw like a girl.
Yeah.
Or whatever. He'd say, look at that funny mullet you got for me. You're bald. I can't see it. You're the shine off your head. And you buy the ball. Give me another set of balls. Trying to dunk the guy. But these things have diminished over the years. But last year, when I was walking the kids around, and except for the guy in the dunk tank, and I think they had the little horse, there was nothing. And I was so disappointed. And suddenly I saw it had all those banners of like a freak show. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't open. And then there was a sign, next show, 8:00.
Oh.
And we waited. It was only like 7:30. And they had an actual, did you go to Ring of Honor in Coney Island?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they have a live freak show there, with these acts, guy walks on glass.
Right.
Sword swallower, these type things. So they had that.
I thought we were going to get to the Show World episode later. I thought that's right.
Yeah, yes. There was
anyway.
Swallowers
Anyway.
in the furry beaver room, no doubt about it. But yeah, they had the show, and it was great, and the kids loved it. They just got it, and but these
And that's the kind of stuff that I'm interested in, because that's a talent. And I think to me that's more marketable, especially now that we know more about human emotion and psychology. You know, there's something to be said about somebody that can walk on glass or breathe fire or do something interesting. That's kind of a talent, and rather than, oh, this person looks funny or this person is different. Right.
One of the acts last year was a guy with these piercings, and he would put these ridiculous amounts of, like with chains.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but very, very strict. You know,
yeah,
wasn't really appealing for my taste in freakdom. But probably my greatest experience with the freaks, and it ties into a wrestling event.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere in the mid-'90s, when ECW was red hot,
mm-hmm.
there was a friend of mine, Jerry Odessa, no longer with us. Geez, everybody I know is no longer with us.
No.
No. He was a wrestler. He was a bit of a wrestling fan. I knew him through the Jethro Tull, one of the early Jethro Tull community, which, you know, I'm going to get to the fair, but back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, whether you liked Black Sabbath or you liked Bruce Springsteen, with no internet and no, you know, there wasn't like a community. Maybe there was, but I was aware of it. But there became a community of Jethro Tull fans. How did this happen? This guy Jerry Odessa ran a party in the village. This is like late 91. Tull was playing 2 nights at the Hulu Theater.
Oh, okay.
Paramount.
Yeah, Paramount. Yeah.
And I got a flyer. And he's like, Jethro Tull, a party, 3 live bands. Anyway, I'll talk more about Jerry and the story, but it was a good way to find like-minded people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them I'm still friends with today. Some of them you met when we went to the Tull show in Bethlehem, my dear friend Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it's interesting because it brought like-minded people together. We didn't know anyone else that were Tull fans except our friends, but there was this group. So there must have been the same with Bruce.
Sure.
There must have been the same with anybody, fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
So Jerry and I, there was a show, an ECW show at the New York State Fair.
Okay.
And while it was running.
Was that in Albany or was that?
It wasn't. It was. I remember going up from this area up 33. What's
Mm-hmm.
the road? The 209-ish.
Okay.
That slips you into New York to what, 84?
Yeah, 84 and 87
Might have
eventually.
been, yeah. It wasn't all the way to. It wasn't Albany. It was somewhere in Middletown, New York.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Sure.
But that's where the big ass New York State Fair was.
Yeah.
And ECW, just like they would have a concert one night and maybe what do they call that when they have the car? Demolition Derby.
Right. Another great staple of the Great Allentown Fair. Yeah.
So they had the ECW wrestling, and so I said to Jerry, "All right, look, let's meet like around 6 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll go check out some stuff. We'll get something to eat. We'll go to the wrestling." We had ringside tickets. I sent away for them or something, and so I get to the fair, and I got there real early. It's like 5:30, and I'm walking around, and I'm seeing that they had a pretty extensive, of these attractions. So Jerry and I met. I guess we were going to meet by the front gate. There was no cell phones, and we meet. He's there at 6. And I'm like, "Hey man, he's like, are you hungry?" I go, yeah. So we went and got some good old fair food. And then I see now it's only like 6:30. I go, "Hey, listen, I want to go see some of these freak show attractions." And Jerry was a big stoner, right? be that as which is fine, but be that as may, he's like, no, I really don't care for those. And he goes, and I just smoke some really strong weed. No, okay. I go, come on, what do you care? He's like, all right. So we walk over. First thing is the aforementioned little world's smallest horse.
A big draw.
Big draw.
And a big good opener. You get the crowd into it.
Right. But this is a standalone. Okay. You know, so you pay $1. Mm-hmm. And they got the little horse. They always have him like in a hole.
Oh,
well, you know what I mean? Not in a hole, but he's like,
it's like an optical illusion to make him look even smaller. Yeah.
And so, you pay $1 and you walk up a couple steps because they didn't want anybody to be able to see the little horse.
Oh, it's like Disney World. You got to keep it away from the street. Right. You got to make people anticipate. Yeah.
So we go to see the little horse, and as we walk up to see the little horse, there's this sign on the platform. It said, "Please no spitting."
Oh. Like what? and
I figured it would say, "Please no petting."
Right. I mean, the only reason there's signs is because somebody's done that before. So we see the little horse. Did you feel the urge?
No.
To spit? Okay.
No.
And just making sure.
No. I was like, what the hell I got that for? Everyone's looking at the little horse. So it's not much to look at.
It's little.
And on the way out, the guy he gave the $1 to, I said to him probably something he had never heard in his many-year career as a carnival guy. I said, "Hey, that was great." And he just looks at me like, he didn't say anything. So we moved on from the little horse, and then they got those Amazonian rats, the world's, this rodent, they called them rats, but they're from the Amazon. Probably was just some big rat from New York City,
Sewer,
and this odd animal. And Jerry's like, "Oh, I don't want to see this thing. I gotta come on." So we pay the $1. We see that, and
that was probably great too.
Well, they had the no spitting sign up again.
Wow.
Right. So now, I'm on a roll, and I'm going to say, so as we left the big rat, I said to the guy, "Hey man, that was great." And the guy he just laughed at me. No one has ever said that to him. So we moved on, and there she was, 27 inches. They would always have on the carnival style placards, "Small enough to hold in the palm of your hand."
Wow.
And there's a recording playing. "See Tiny Tasha, the world's smallest woman, 27 inches. Tiny Tasha, she has 4 normal-sized children. Come see her tonight. $1, the world's smallest woman." And so I'm like, "Come on, Jerry." He's like, "I've had enough. I go,
Jerry's tapping out. He wants to see Eddie Guerrero. He wants to see Rey Mysterio.
Right. So I said, "Come." But plus, in between, as we were, and it was spread out over a decent area. I saw him sneaking down, take another hit of his weed, right?
He might be paranoid at this point.
He was, yeah. So I go, "Come on." So we go in and we give the $1. I give $2, $1 each. And we go in. And now I've seen Little Linda in my career. I've seen Tiny Tasha, and there's another one. Gloria Rodan.
Oh,
Three of they're all
legends.
the littlest women's in the world.
right.
And so, anyway, we get to Tiny Tasha. We pay the $1. We go in. Well, there it is. The no spitting sign.
Wow.
They must have been in like an area where there was a rash of spitting, and it was like it was like almost the Carnival Commission insisted they put this sign
We
up.
talked about the good work of the Maryland State Athletic Commission. Now another commission's looking out for them.
So in order to see Tiny Tasha, you got to go. And they have her like besides the placards, they make it so it's like a little doll house. It's got like so you take a couple steps up and you go around the bend, and as we go around, so in other words, it's 360 degrees. At the 180 point is where you get to see her. And there she is.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe what she was doing.
I can't even imagine at this point.
She was knitting.
Oh, that's not. Well, she's probably in there. She's probably got 5-minute breaks in between every visitor. That's that takes up a nice amount of time. And at the end, she gets a scarf.
So I said to her, I go, and I go, how are you? Like a camel. How are you? I said, how are you? And she's knitting. She goes, fine. So Jerry's hitting me. He's giving me the elbow, like, let's get out of here. Yeah. Let's get out of here. And I guarantee you, when this pandemic ends and you see your next 27-inch woman, they all have a sign up, including Tiny Tasha, that says, please donate. Would you please donate so I can get an electric wheelchair?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a standard. It's a standard request that they've over the years had figured would get to the people's hearts.
Yeah, that got right to mine.
So Jerry's like, come on. So as I'm like, let me give her, so I reach in my pocket for $1, and she dropped the knitting supplies, and I was putting the $1 as she saw me going for the $1, I was putting the $1 in the little can for the electric wheelchair, but she double dipped me. What? As she saw me going, she had a fish on the line. She drops the knitting supplies, and she was holding what would probably have been a can of green beans that had removed the label.
Our gang
she
style.
She had a handwritten note that said, please donate for more knitting supplies. So besides the wheelchair, so I gave her the other $1, and off we went. And when we left, I said to the gentleman in front, hey, that was great. And he said, oh, thank you. So, please return. So Jerry's like, look, that's it. Well, in earshot, we were going to get out of there and go over. It was probably around 7, getting close to 7:30. And as we're walking out of the area, I hear this recorded thing. See the drug addict.
What?
On display.
Oh my God.
And I go, we got to go. He's like, no. I go, come on. We're this far with the. So I'm following the voice.
Yeah.
And as I get closer, they have a picture, carnival style placards of pills and
Syringe.
Well, I'll get to that. The marijuana with joints and other drugs on the other thing, but on the top thing was a syringe with very, very good artwork.
Of course, sparing no expense.
Within the syringe was the drug addict. It was a picture of the drug addict boy, like as if he was being shot out. Right?
Jesus.
So the recording, now I can hear it in full. And it's like, this is an educational exhibit. We've brought to you tonight the drug addict, this young boy, valedictorian of his high school, on his way to Harvard, but one too many puffs of marijuana. They never mention alcohol, of course.
Yeah.
One too many uppers, one too many downers, and some psychedelics, as well as the horrors of cocaine and heroin, turned this young boy into an addict. If we can save one person in the crowd tonight from the horrors of drug addiction, we have done our job. This exhibit is being presented to you by Dr. Wills. And then it started playing again. So I go, we got to go.
Because by then you've begun to clean up. I'm sure
I was clean at that time.
And I'm sure you're wondering, like, oh, you've seen it all at this point. You're probably wondering, all right, what could possibly...
Well, I knew it was bogus anyway. Right. But so we go up to the guy who was selling the tickets was an overall wearing, tobacco chewing, and spitting.
Well, maybe the signs were for him.
Could have been. Yeah. You're right. So I give him I think it was $2 to see the drug addict. I give him
it also sounds like a really bad, like, Herb Abrams UWF gimmick.
I give him the money and I say to the guy, I go, "Oh, you must be Dr. Wills." And he says to me, he goes, he was in mid-chaw of the tobacco. He goes, "No, just a friend of his." So we give him the $2. We go back. Yes, the no spitting sign was there.
Wow.
And as we make the 180-degree turn, and they have, like bars up,
like jail, like a jail
yeah,
cell?
like a jail style. But the same with the, I don't think they had bars for the little woman.
No.
They had it open. But, and there's this kid, probably some 20-year-old kid with long hair, with his neck cocked, and like his sort of his tongue hanging out, and that was it. And he too had a donation cup. Please help me get rehabilitated. Right? Put the $1 in. And as we left, I turned to Dr. Will's friend and I once again said, "Hey, that was great." And he goes, "I'm glad you enjoyed it." And that was it. We were off to the ECW.
Well, let's talk about that. I know we had intended to do something completely different today, but we're on quite a roll here, so I'm going to keep with it. ECW 1995, that was when Raven became Raven. That was when the Mexican stars started to come in, like Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, Eddie Guerrero.
The Gangsters were there also.
How about Public Enemy?
They were there.
And Sandman.
The whole crew. Wow. Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah.
And we made it in, must have been about 7:40. And I was walking around in my wrestling fandom. And there I saw by the back fence, New Jack.
Oh.
Right? And I went up to him. I had a fence between us.
Yeah.
And I said, I really, I go to the ECW arena. I really enjoy what you guys do. And just like the first attendant at the Little Horse exhibit, he just sort of nodded.
Yeah.
And that was it. He didn't answer me. And we enjoyed a good evening. They put on a good card.
Yeah.
They didn't shortcake. I can't remember anything about it.
I know I own the tape. I have the tape from
the New York State
Fair. I do, yeah, from '95. And I know it always got me as a kid because they aired something on TV, and it looks like the Allentown Fairgrounds on TV.
Yeah, bigger.
Yeah, and which WWF for years and years would come not only to Ag Hall, that's of course where the TV was, but they'd run the fairgrounds during the summertime.
I have a poster downstairs with a Bob Backlund and I think Andre there was a $10,000 to the winner of the 20-man battle royal.
Yeah, quite a prize, and at $6 a head for admission.
Right. But they probably drew 5,000 people.
Yeah, those events would be huge. Yeah.
Have you ever seen any concerts or shows at the fair?
I did. I saw Def Leppard.
Yeah, they're a perennial.
Yeah, they came back every couple of years. I saw John Kerry deliver an address about a week before the 2004 election. Yeah.
I saw Styx. Now that I'm thinking about it,
nice.
I saw Yes one time.
I saw Jimmy Eat World, who was big about 20 years ago, and the first time I ever crowd surfed.
Oh, really?
That concert, yeah. I'm a big boy. I'm about 215 pounds, 210 pounds, and yeah, just went right up.
How did that start?
My personal
that moment. Like, what do you do? Do you like jump up in the air?
Yeah. So we saw people going up, and
do you jump off the stage? Or
I didn't. I got like a cheerleading boost where my friends
friends.
Yeah, I had two friends. One cupped one hand and just put me up, and then the other made sure I had a place to go backwards. And yeah, I just went.
How far did you go?
Pretty further than I thought I would. Maybe about 9 people. It just kept going backwards. Yeah.
Was it fun?
It was cool. Somebody grabbed my butt, and I was 15 years old. So.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah.
AJ, did you ever see any shows at the fair?
Rush.
There you go.
Rush, yeah.
Because it carries things fast.
Nice.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, it's a good time, and those are the kind of things we're missing as summer comes to a close. It's been a weird summer. And,
it's not at a close yet.
Not yet. We still have Labor Day, and we still have some fun things to.
We should hopefully have a good September with the weather.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to the change of season. I've been bored enough with this better weather, and I'm fortunate to have my little pool and I do like warm weather, but it's whatever. We're going to get through it.
We will. You're going to have to get that like Ted DiBiase money and get a winter residence in Palm.
Well, I wanted to. I was talking about it. My friend, I have a very good friend who lives in Hollywood, Florida, and but right now there's such uncertainty with everything.
Yeah, that
it's hard to, make plans. It's just.
I think that's where we wanted to leave things for today. Before we started talking, it's. It may seem trivial to you going through it, but really everybody's in the same boat. And, we know there's folks that have had different extremes, folks that have lost family members and folks that have lost homes and jobs. But it's okay to be upset and to have feelings about whatever you're going through right now. And,
yes.
And we, even if it is, menial or trivial compared to what others have gone through, things are different right now. And, we really hope you've been enjoying this because it's brought us something to do and something that we enjoy to do.
Yeah, if we're able to give you a laugh, give you a chuckle, take you out of your space for a little while with all these crazy things going on, that's what this podcast is about. There's 8 million wrestling podcasts, and there's a lot of good ones. But I was thinking the other day, how many times do I want to hear these guys dissect the 80s?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
There's an overabundance. I'll get knocked for saying this. And there's some good ones. There's an overabundance of these, that NWA era, Jim Crockett but this is a different podcast. We would appreciate it if you would subscribe, rate, review. We have our merchandise on Pro Wrestling Tees, the Last Stop Penn Station t-shirt, as well as the Camel t-shirt. I want to once again thank Ian for helping me getting this project, and of course our producer AJ and my good friend Eric, who helps me with my notes and some other things that might seem trivial, but they're not, because he's a big help. So, and when we come back with you for our next episode, which we didn't even mention where we were.
Right, we were a playful diversion this week.
Right,
a little summertime
we're
fun.
We're going to come back with you with some rock and roll and some. I don't know about if there's going to be that much sex, but there's going to be rock and roll and drugs for sure. Maybe a little sex.
Well, how about before we go, and maybe we'll save this for a full podcast, some quick questions about the ECW arena.
Okay.
Maybe we could do we'll definitely do a full, because we have a lot of perspective on the wrestlers that were there from their perspective, but maybe not from a fan's perspective. That's not well documented, at least to my knowledge. So how did you learn about ECW? Was the magazines, the newsletters?
I discovered it on television.
Okay.
I was living out here, and it was on a UHF station.
Yeah, Channel 48, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this was back when it was Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
And any wrestling, I used to have a satellite dish.
Really?
So in the mid-90s, there was America One, I think.
America,
it was called,
and they had ECW as well.
as well as Smoky Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the Dying Days of Memphis.
Right. The AWF
Yes.
with Sergeant Slaughter and Tito Santana.
So, but I saw the Eastern Championship Wrestling, and I noticed they were having shows in Philly
Mm-hmm.
at this, was it called the ECW Arena in the beginning?
I
Or
don't.
was it Alhambra? Or?
It was. Yeah, they would call it the ECW Arena. It was the bingo hall.
Right.
But yeah.
So I, of course, the first time I went, it was by myself,
Yeah.
and this was back when Sabu first came.
Ooh.
And I got to see the Sheik's one of his last matches. He might have had a couple in Japan, but
Okay.
the original Sheik,
Yeah.
the fireball
Ed
throwing
Farhat.
Sheik. Yeah. And some real good stuff, but we'll go into depth on that at some
Absolutely.
point. But when I first went, there was only like a couple hundred people there.
Yeah. Because you very famously, in Eddie Guerrero's last night, gave him a big hug.
Well, that's when it was jam packed. They went, from, just drawing 200-300 people to filling the place.
Yeah.
And there was a hell of an atmosphere at that place. We'll dedicate an episode to it.
Yeah, we'll earmark that. So I'll save the remaining questions, because that'll give us take us into another hour or two.
Okay.
But it's been a great time this week, Kerry. Maybe I'll stick the ending, unlike how I started the episode. What do you think about that? I used so many words during the television taping in Ring of Honor. I didn't know how to start a podcast anymore.
That's all right.
But we want to thank everybody for listening this week. Last Stop Penn Station, ProWrestlingTees.com. You can get the Last Stop Penn Station merchandise. Limited Micro Brawlers still available on ROHWrestling.com. They're all
How
gone.
could they not be sold out?
They're just about sold out. And I got some autograph ones that are coming to IanRiccaboni.com. Hit me up on Facebook or Instagram if you want an autograph version. So,
Very cool.
yeah. So for Carrie, I'm Ian. Thanks everybody for joining. Happy wrestling, everybody. We'll see you next week. Well, actually, we'll see you this Friday for another episode of Last Stop Penn Station.
We hail you for listening to Last Stop Penn Station podcast. Rate, review, like, subscribe, and share on your favorite platform. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or at laststoppennstation.com.